Welcome to the space for transformational leaders to unleash their magic, see better client results, work lighter, and live source. Have you ever had one of those moments when time stood still? I'm Darla Ledoux, founder of Sourced, and I have had plenty of these moments. In my book, Shift the Field, I even talked about one of them when in that pause, in that moment, you can remember with crystal clarity everything that's happening around you, maybe what you were wearing, what the other person was wearing, well, the entirety is like frozen in your mind because time stood still. And you knew in that moment something was available, something was happening. But maybe you only knew in retrospect the importance of that moment. So I had one of those moments. I was on my very first date with my future wife / ex-wife. Now I'm in the process of getting divorced. But I was on my first date and we were having this conversation. And if you don't know the story, I had just come out. So I had been living as a straight person for 39 years of my life, almost 39. And it was suggested to me that I kind of had the energy of someone who was gay and didn't know it. And at that point, I decided to give myself an experience of that to find out if that was true. And in fact, I discovered that it felt very true for me in my body. So fast forward, here I am, I'm out on a date with a woman. And, it had really been like my second date. And I found myself sharing a little bit about how I was newly out. And this person says to me, and again, I remember the moment, it was one of those moments, and I knew enough to know this was an important moment. She said to me, I'm going to put you in a bubble and protect you from all those mean lesbians. And I quote. Now, I'm newly out. I have no idea what she's talking about and who the mean lesbians are and why I would need to be protected or anything like that. But the general idea was I was fresh meat in the community and that therefore it would be very scary and I needed to be protected. Now, in this time stand still moment, and I talk about another one in my book, so definitely check that out if you're resonating with this. In that time stand still moment, it was like there were two parts of me communicating with me at the same time. So there was the part of me that said, well, that's crazy, that's weird, that's not healthy, like you don't put people in bubbles, that's not something you do, right? So there was a part of me that said, no, I'm not for that. And in fact, this is like my friend calls them yellow flags, right? This is a yellow flag. I don't want to be in a bubble. There was another part of me that said, yes, please, put me in a bubble because I am freaking terrified. I don't know how to be a lesbian. I'm afraid of mean lesbians. What does this even mean? Put me in a bubble and protect me, please. Right? So here are these two parts of me communicating at the same time. Now, in retrospect, the more direct path to my truth would have been to say, I'm not interested in being in a bubble. Let me go find out what's happening out here, right? Yet, where I was in my own consciousness and my development and my self-confidence and my personal alignment was in that moment, right? I had a choice where I was at the time was actually more aligned with, yes, please put me in a bubble. And that was the choice I made energetically, right? My mind didn't say, put me in a bubble. I didn't act like I was in a bubble, but energetically, I agreed to this energetic connection to this sense of being protected by this other person. And I can see as I've grown, right, and outgrown the bubble in various ways over the years. I've expanded the bubble, I've pushed on the bubble, and I got to the point where it was time to leave the bubble. Now, you can, and this is breaking that energetic agreement, right, and creating a whole new agreement. And this is something you can totally do without having to leave a relationship. So as you're hearing this, if you're looking back and you're going, oh, I made this agreement with my partner, or I made an agreement with a client to show up in a certain way, to be codependent with them and help them with everything and you know, do all the extra work, and now I don't want to anymore. You can completely renegotiate that agreement, right? However, the other person has to also want to renegotiate that agreement. The other person has to be willing to also transform. So let's go back to this time stand still moment, right? Because we can look at it as, in this moment, I have maybe the higher conscious choice and the lower consciousness choice, right? Is one of those sourced and one of those default? Maybe, right? I don't need to be in a bubble is probably more sourced, and perhaps the yes, please protect me is more default, right? I need protection somehow. The world isn't safe. I'm not safe. I need protection. So that's more default energy. This would be more sourced energy. The question is one good or bad, right or wrong? And we could debate about that, right? And I could even make an argument that this choice to go in the bubble was actually sourced, because where I was in that moment, I wasn't yet prepared to go this way. How do I know? Because I went this way, right? Had I been prepared to go this way, I would have gone this way. So clearly my soul needed the lessons of this lower consciousness path in order to create the contrast to help me see what it looks like to be on this higher consciousness path. So isn't this interesting? Because there is no wrong answer. I could go this way or that way, and either way, I am still me at a soul level who's here to express who I am at a soul level, and no one can take that away from me. I have a friend who always says, what's yours is destined to be yours. You can't mess it up, right? And that's basically what I'm saying here. So I want you to look at two things. One, the time stand still moment. Here's what's happening is you are aware of the different options available to you. This sourced message is coming through. It's saying this is a pivot point. This is a moment. This is a choice that's going to set something in motion for you. And I know you know what I mean if you're thinking back to those moments in the past. And we have a choice here. There's more information available, sourced information available than our mind can comprehend, but it's coming in and it's being exchanged. And we are making this choice, this way or that, this way or that. Do I need this lesson? Am I going down this path? Or will I bypass it and go this way, right? And what I encourage you is, one, when you notice these moments, believe yourself that there's more information here. Believe yourself that you are in that moment agreeing to an energy pattern that may not serve you, and that you can go back and clean it up. And I remembered that moment throughout the history of my relationship. And I did attempt to go back and clean it up, to broach that conversation and say, hey, I don't want to be in a bubble. Let's talk about this, right? But I didn't have a partner who wanted to kind of go resolve that and recreate it, because that was serving her, that pattern, that feeling of importance, right? And so I wasn't able to shift the field, shift the energy in that agreement. And so the inevitable outcome is to leave and to part ways. And that was the path I was on, right? That was where I was at the time I made that agreement. I was newly out I was obviously afraid of my own sexuality, or I probably would have come out many years earlier. And so I wanted to step into that bubble at some level, right? Even though, there were various times where I thought, ooh, should have gone that way, could have gone that way. What would have happened had I gone that way? Like, I really am so grateful for all of the learning and integration and who I've become by going that way, right? It really has helped me to embrace who I am. And by the way, I didn't lose. You don't lose anything, right? So I was on this timeline, right? This path. And I just said, okay, I'm going to come over here. And I truly believe everything I learned here came with me here. I didn't go backward. Okay. So how is this relating to you? What's true for you when it comes to these time stand still moments? What energetic agreements have you made in your relationships, in your career choices, in your business niche choices that maybe you knew you had this decision and you went this way and now you want to hop over here? I'm curious if this is resonating. I know this is a pretty deep concept, and I love working with transformational leaders who really are committed to being at the top of their game energetically, which means really being in ownership of what's happening in their life energetically. So I want to know what resonates. Is this helpful? Do you want to hear more of this? If so, let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, share your own story. I can't wait to hear. I love you, and I'll see you soon.